So we have had another action-packed weekend in the Championship, and today we're going to be discussing all the main talking points from this weekend's Championship football. So as always guys, make sure you do leave a comment in the comments down below as to what did you make of your team's performance this weekend. Were you impressed or were you disappointed? We had quite a few big performances this week and we had a lot of teams who really weren't at their best. And before we get into talking about any of the matches, I will include your guys' comments on screen now, so if any of you guys did successfully manage to get any of your score predictions correct, then I will include your comment on screen now. So fair play to everyone who did get a score prediction correct this weekend, and none of mine were correct this weekend. It was a pretty tough one to predict in my opinion, but FIFA managed to go ahead and get 2 of their score predictions correct. They went ahead and predicted the Blackburn against Millwall game and the Middlesbrough against Birmingham game. So currently it's 3-1 to FIFA in this prediction league. So we'll start out at Villa Park, where Aston Villa managed to claim a 3-2 home victory over Wigan Athletic thanks to a last minute Bjarnason winner. It certainly wasn't an easy ride for them, but Aston Villa in the first half, they were looking quite good actually. They managed to take the lead through James Chester after a brilliant set piece delivery coming in from the left hand side from McGinn. McGinn on his debut for Aston Villa actually looked very threatening for him, either from his set piece deliveries or from his balls into the box from open play. I think he could be a real asset for Villa going into this season. Throughout the majority of the first half, Villa probably had the better of it. Jack Grealish pulling the strings from deep in midfield, and then just on the stroke of half time in the 41st minute, Wigan managed to get back into the game after a horrific back pass from Mile Jedinak. For some reason, Steve Bruce was playing Jedinak in the back four. A bit of an odd one for me. I didn't think that Elthwick was that bad really, but he dropped Elthwick to the bench, brought Jedinak into the first team and into that back four. He played a short back pass, Nick Paul managed to latch onto it, and in the end Wigan got back into it at half time. Getting into the second half, I thought that Wigan showed a vast improvement. Going forward, they were showing attacking threats from all areas, quite similar to how they were playing against Sheffield Wednesday, and they were rewarded with Connolly taking the lead for them in the second half. Villa then got back into it thanks to an own goal, and for the majority of the second half it was a bit of a scrappy game. Josh Windass was introduced for Wigan Athletic on his debut. He had some nice touches and some nice off the ball movements, possibly could have scored as well, but then in the 94th minute Bjarnason popped up with the winner for Villa. I'd say that so far the performances from Villa haven't been completely convincing, but to pick up 6 points you can't really complain at that. Our next game then finished as a goalless draw between Blackburn and Millwall, and quite a surprising one really, as both teams had some fantastic chances in this one. Millwall probably had the better of the first half. They hit the post a couple of times. Both Gregory and Morrison were quite unlucky not to get a goal in that first half really. Blackburn challenged a little bit. They had a free kick towards the end of that half. Bradley Dack put a good save from Jordan Archer. Into the second half though was where Blackburn really started to grow into the game, and that's where the chances started to come. Bradley Dack was really the orchestrator of this Blackburn side. You can see his vision and creativity on the ball really. He managed to put Danny Graham through on goal twice in this game, but he couldn't deliver the goods in the end. Jordan Archer for Millwall had an absolutely terrific game for this one to go ahead and keep a clean sheet. He really needs to be kept on his toes for that second half, and either side could have really won it. Blackburn were really pushing for a winner in the second half, but in the end nothing came for them. So in the end finishing 0-0, not a bad point for either side. The next game finished as a 2-2 draw between Bolton and Bristol City. A very dramatic game indeed. The first half not a lot was really happening. Bristol City had the majority of the ball, but they weren't really very penetrating with the forward moves they were making. Going into the second half though, that's when Bolton hit Bristol City with the sucker punch in this one, scoring 2 goals in quite quick succession. Will Buckley got the first for Bolton after a corner coming in, and then it was Josh McGuinness who managed to go ahead and double their lead. Some nice footwork from him into the box, and then a very tidy finish in the end. That's 2-2 from him now since he has signed from Charlton. After that, Bristol City looked to push forward and looked to become a bit more penetrating. It was Vyman who got a goal back for Bristol City after a fantastic pass from Marlon Pack, a defence splitting pass really to go ahead and play Vyman in, and then he managed to make it 2-1. Then in the 81st minute, Jamie Patterson managed to make it 2-2 after he drifted into the box from the left hand side. Quite an interesting game. I feel like going into the game Bolton probably would have taken the point, but the fact they were 2-0 up and then they sacrificed that to go ahead and make it 2-2 in the end puts a bit of a dampener on it. I can't really call at this point how I think Bristol City will fare over the course of this season. After the game there were quite a few complaints about the referee that I did see as well, so let me know down below what Bolton and Bristol City fans thought of that, but overall a 2-2 draw. It was certainly an entertaining game. We then saw Middlesbrough go ahead and claim a 1-0 home victory over Birmingham, and in all honesty I thought that scoreline probably did flatter Birmingham a little bit. It was Bretson Belonga who took the lead for Middlesbrough. A fantastic finish for him. He took the ball out of the sky with his left foot, a nice bit of footwork to cut inside with his right, and he just bent it into the far corner. After that, Bretson Belonga should have probably scored about 3 or 4 goals in this game. game. He hit the post in the first half, he hit the crossbar in the second half, and he missed an open goal in the second half as well. So one thing that you say about Middlesbrough is they were creating chances, you know. After the loss of Adomatre, alright, late on in the transfer window, I thought that perhaps we'd see Middlesbrough struggling to create chances, but that wasn't the case in this game. They were creating the chances, just weren't clinical enough, you know. It could have easily ended 3 or 4-0 in the end for this one. Birmingham, they crafted a couple of chances going forward, but I feel like a couple of their players really need to step up. Jota being one of them. I said a couple of videos ago I fancy him to have quite a big season for Birmingham, but with performances like that, he was a little bit limp in this game. Going forward, didn't really look like he was offering a lot. So in the end though, Middlesbrough claim a 1-0 home victory, quite a comfortable game for them. Then we saw West Brom go ahead and beat Norwich 4-3 away from home, and I'm not even sure that I have the vocabulary to go ahead and explain just how much of a bizarre game this was in the end. This game had absolutely everything, and it took so many twists and turns throughout the game. Jordan Rhodes went ahead and gave Norwich the lead in the first half after a nice finish from him. One player I've got to give a shout out for Norwich once again was Onel Hernandez. He was absolutely instrumental with everything Norwich had going forward in this game. In the end of the game, he managed to go ahead and pick up 2 assists, but everything, he was absolutely vibrant in this game. He went ahead and won the penalty for Norwich as well, which Jordan Rhodes couldn't convert. It was quite a lacklustre penalty from him in the end. West Brom also got a penalty in the first half that was converted though through Jay Rodriguez. Then going into the second half, Norwich had a bit of a mare defensively. Tete was caught out on the ball by Jay Rodriguez, and then he just decided to have a pop from long range, and then somehow Tim Krul managed to go ahead and spill the ball into the back of the net, and then that meant that West Brom went 2-1 in front. After that, Harvey Barnes once again getting on the score sheet for West Brom. Some great awareness from Jay Rodriguez to go ahead and dummy the ball, leave the ball to Barnes on the edge of the box, and he went ahead and bent it into the far corner. A very nice finish from him. He's already looking like a fantastic loan deal for West Brom. Then after that, Norwich got back into the game with a goal from Timu Pukki. Then Robson Kanu popped up with a goal for West Brom, and then Grant Hanley popped up with one for Norwich. In the end, it finished 4-3 to West Brom. And like I said before, defensively, Norwich were looking all over the place for this one. Going forward, Onel Hernandez looked to be a fantastic player for Norwich this season. I fancy him to have a really big year for them. And for West Brom, I think they'll just be pleased to go ahead and get 3 points for this one. Their season can finally get up and running now, and I mean, they've got some good players going forward, that's for sure. With this one, Nottingham Forest go ahead and claim a 1-0 home victory over Reading, as we saw them pick up their first victory of this season. And definitely not the game of the weekend. The first half of this one was a little bit dull, weren't too many chances between either team. Reading, defensively, they were looking quite good. They were keeping the shape throughout this one. You know, last season for Reading, individual mistakes at the back were costing them a shed loads of goals. That doesn't look like it'll be the case this season necessarily. They kept their shape well and were containing Forest quite well. And you've got to give credit for Aitor Karanka for the substitutes that he made on the 56th minute. He introduced both the Soudani and Matty Cash coming into the game. Obviously, Soudani in the end going ahead and scoring the winner for Forest. Reading, they had a couple of chances. Pantilimon had to be kept on his toes, and he made a couple of saves throughout the game, but in the end, it was just that bit of quality which won it for Forest in the end. So a game of quite small margins really, but Forest picking up their first win of the season for this one. We then saw Sheffield United go ahead and bounce back with a 2-1 away victory at Loftus Road. In the first half, I thought that QPR showed quite a big improvement from their first showing at Preston. It was a nice finish from Eze to go ahead and make it 1-0 to QPR after 29 minutes, and honestly, all of QPR's attacks were flowing through this guy, and if QPR are going to do anything this season, he's going to be absolutely central to that, because he was causing Sheffield United a lot of problems in this one. But then the sucker punch came in the 43rd minute as Billy Sharp managed to level things up going into half time. And going into the second half, that late goal from Billy Sharp just seemed to take the energy out of QPR's performance, and it gave Sheffield United the lift they needed going into that second half. And then in the end, it was a penalty which won the game for Sheffield United, a very dubious one. After watching the replays of it, I thought it was an incredibly soft penalty, but in the end it was Dave McGoldrick who went ahead and converted, and in the second half QPR couldn't really muster up anything to go ahead and get back into the game. So Sheffield United going ahead and claiming their first victory of the season, and for QPR it was a bit of a topsy-turvy game really. First half they were showing some attacking threats, second half not so great. Then we saw Rotherham United go ahead and bounce back with a 1-0 home victory over Ipswich Town, and Ipswich I'm sure won't be happy with this one. For the majority of the game they controlled it really, and it was one of those games where you felt like if Ipswich went ahead and got that first goal early, then the floodgates may have opened. But in fairness to Rotherham, they managed to stay tight at the back. At times, you know, they did ride their luck a little bit perhaps, but Ipswich Town just didn't have that clinical nature in front of the goal. And then in the 90th minute, it was Michael Smith who popped up to punish Ipswich with a header into the back of the net to go ahead and give them all 3 points. And this was quite an important victory for Rotherham in my opinion. You know, if they were coming off the back of that 5-1 defeat on the opening day to Brentford, if they then went into this home game and lost to Ipswich town by, a big margin. Questions would have been asked of this Rotherham side and whether they are capable of competing in the Championship, but they went ahead, picked up all 3 points, and was a good game for them, really. It's also worth mentioning that during the game there was quite a nice tribute to Barry Chuckle, who of course sadly passed away the other week, so I quite enjoyed that from both sets of fans. Our next game then ended level between Sheffield Wednesday and Hull City in a game where either side could have gone on to win this one, really, with some of the chances they both crafted out in the second half. It was Hull who took the lead thanks to Fraser Campbell. They needed quite a few attempts to go ahead and get the ball in the back of the net. It was Jared Bowen who curled one from outside the box, that hit the post. The follow-up effort was then saved by Dawson, and then at the third time of asking, Fraser Campbell managed to go ahead and slot into the back of the net. Both teams had chances in the first half. Stephen Fletcher had a very good one, but that was well saved by Marshall for Hull City. Going into the second half, Sheffield Wednesday then managed to win a penalty. Fernando Forestieri just nipping in ahead of Reece Burke. He then went on to take the penalty, and it was a very composed one in the end to go ahead and level things up at 1-1. And Forestieri in the second half was a real nuisance to Hull City. Some of the moves he was able to craft out all by himself. He was quite unlucky, really, not to go on and win the game for Sheffield Wednesday. Hull also had chances in the second half, a few of them coming from set pieces where they were looking dangerous for this one, but in the end it did finish as a 1-1 draw. It'll be interesting to know what both sets of fans thought of this one. Then we saw Stoke City go up against Brentford, and this one finished as a 1-1 draw in the end. Stoke fans, let me know down below what you made of your first home game back in the Championship. Honestly, I didn't think Stoke were that convincing, to be completely honest. I thought that Brentford probably had the better of this game. It was Stoke who took the lead thanks to Benicophobe, a horrible blunder from Brentford at the back to go ahead and allow him an open net in the end. But up until the point where Stoke scored, I thought that Brentford got quite unlucky not to take the lead in this one. If it wasn't for some big saves from Jack Butland and perhaps a little bit more quality from Brentford in the final third, they would have gone on to win this game in the end. The goal that Brentford equalised with, though, was absolutely fantastic. Some really nice moves off the ball, and then Ollie Watkins with a 1-2 with Neil Maupay. He got the ball back on the edge of the box, and then a fantastic finish into the far bottom corner to go ahead and level things up. But then after that, if any team was going to go on and win it, it was probably going to be Brentford. Stoke, in fairness to them, they did fashion out some other chances in this one, but nothing was coming off for them in the end. So finishing 1-1 in the end. Brentford, I thought, made a good account of themselves. Stoke, I'm yet to be convinced by them. And then we saw my team, Preston, then go away to Swansea, and in the end we did lose by 1-0. And a game of two halves, really. The first half of Preston, we were really far off the pace. Both our centre-backs, Tom Clark and Ben Davis, really didn't come out of this game with anything to shout about. Tom Clark, I'd be surprised if he wasn't dropped next week, really, for Paul Huntington to come in. But the first half of this one, we were all over the place. We weren't keeping the ball well at all, and Swansea were absolutely all over us. Joe Lasoro going forward was causing problems, Ollie McBurney and Barry Mackay as well. Swansea, they did get a penalty, but Declan Rudd managed to save it. I thought that was fair, really. The penalty did look to be a little bit soft, but I thought that when we gave that penalty away, that would be a bit of a wake-up call for our defenders and for us to really get back into this game, but that wasn't the case. Swansea managed to take the lead in the first half, and honestly, the goal had been coming. We couldn't have really had too many excuses about conceding goals like that. Going into the second half, though, I thought that Preston showed a massive improvement. We were looking to get on the ball a lot more. Plays were actually showing for themselves, and we were looking to create some more chances. I'd say that at times in the second half, Swansea probably did have to ride their luck a little bit. They weren't creating much for themselves, but in fairness to them, they were able to grind out the result. And Preston going forward, not clinical enough. And the same could be said, at times last season as well. Without Shirley Maguire in this side, we just didn't have that final quality in the final third to go ahead and break things down. We were creating chances in that second half, but we couldn't put anything away. Obviously, Lucas Mecha had his debut for Preston in this one. We can't really read too much into it, as the service wasn't brilliant throughout the whole game. He did have a couple of chances, but it is still very early days for him. I think that the more he gets to know this squad, the better he'll fit into our system. But overall, losing 1-0 to Swansea, after the first half performance, we can't really have too many complaints about that. And then for our last game, we saw Leeds United go to Pride Park and walk away with a monumental 4-1 away victory in what was a fantastic performance from the away side. They managed to go ahead and take the lead through Click. It was a fantastic 20-yard effort from him, which saw Leeds go 1-0 in front. After that, Tom Lawrence did manage to level for Derby County with a very nice free kick into the roof of the net. I thought that the Leeds keeper possibly could have done a bit better to save it. It was just above him, but the power on that free kick from Tom Lawrence managed to get Derby back into this game. I thought that would spur the home team on to really go ahead and press up against this Leeds side, but that wasn't the case. Leeds had too much for this Derby side, and it was Kemar Roofe who managed to restore Leeds United's lead after just 21 minutes with a nice finish from him. him. One thing I'd say about Kemar Roofe is in his first 2 games, I've been very impressed by him. Playing as a central striker now, we've seen him in his last season for Leeds sometimes playing out wide. I think he is more effective when he is played as a striker, and after Leeds signed Patrick Bamford, I thought that may be the end for Kemar Roofe at Leeds, but in fairness to him, he's been absolutely fantastic so far. The second goal especially went to really emphasise that. Some fantastic footwork inside the box, and then he went ahead and fired it past Scott Carson to go ahead and make it 3-1 to Leeds. And then it was Alioski who made it 4 in the end. One standout performer, I thought that Samu Saiz was absolutely fantastic for Leeds United again, and one thing that you have to say about this Leeds team is only one new signing featured in this Leeds United starting 11, and when you consider how tragic they were at times last season, you can already see that the effect that Marcelo Bielsa has been able to have on this Leeds United players, and that's a sign of a good manager. He's working with what he's already got at Leeds, and they absolutely battered Derby in this one. I'd also be interested to know from you guys, what do you make of the Leeds United away kit? Are you a fan of it or do you not like it? Let me know down below. I'll leave a poll for you guys to vote on that one for, but overall it was a very convincing win for Leeds, and Derby were far off the pace with this one. So guys, there you have it. That'll wrap it up for this episode of the Championship Roundup. Make sure you leave a comment in the comments down below for what you made of your team's performance this weekend. In terms of my result of the weekend, for the second week running, I'm going to give it to Leeds United yet again for their 4-1 away victory at Derby County. And then as for my goal of the weekend, there are a lot of contenders for this one, and I'm not going to be able to fit them all into the poll because there were some absolute scorchers scored this weekend. But for myself, I'm actually going to go ahead and give it to Kemar Roofe for his second goal against Derby County. It was some brilliant off-the-ball movement from Leeds United, some nice passing build-up play to go ahead and lead up to it, and then the skill inside the box. He had 3 or 4 Derby defenders in and around him, managed to manoeuvre past all of them, and then fire into the back of the net past Scott Carlson. But guys, that will now wrap it up for this episode of the Championship Roundup. So if you have enjoyed, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, please do subscribe for some regular Championship content. But apart from that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.